We appreciate you coming out. We've got some introductions right off the bat. We've got Commissioner Crowley from Lyon County is here. We've got Commissioner Grebner and Wakefield. They're here from Redwood County. We've got John Byron. He's Lyon County Ditch Inspector. Is that the? That's correct. Okay. And from Redwood County, we've got Matt Mummy, Scott Wold, and Brent Lang. They're all in the Drainage Department. Anybody else we forget? We've got John Thompson. He's a viewer. Bob Hanson is a viewer. And I'm Mark Behrens. I'm another viewer. And we appreciate you coming out. We've got about a half-hour, 45-minute PowerPoint presentation that talks about this redetermination of benefits on JD 14. That's anything in the blue here. So that's what we're talking about is this meeting in the blue. Also, tomorrow at the same time, I'm guessing some of you are in JD 15. That's anything in the yellow. We've got a meeting tomorrow about JD 15. There's a redetermination of benefits going on that one, just like 14, and also a possible improvement on JD 15. So again, we'll go ahead and get going on this presentation. That's the possible improvement that they're talking about on JD 15. That'll be in this room here tomorrow at the same time. So on a redetermination of benefits, this system was established 100 years ago in 1917. At that time, when they built the system, they say, okay, if we put an open ditch through here and a tile through here, who's going to benefit from it? And usually it would be a 40-acre on this side and a 40-acre on this side and maybe right along the tile. But now the way tiling is done and open ditches are, most every acre within the system benefits from that system. So this is a redetermination of benefits. We're re-looking at who benefits from the getting rid of the water on JD 14. So we update the benefits and the damages within that system, and we determine a percent that each parcel pays toward repair and maintenance. So that's what we'll go through here in the next half an hour. This is the second of 3 meetings. By ditch law, there's only 1 meeting that's required, and that's a public hearing with the Drainage Authority. And the Drainage Authority is county commissioners from Lyon and Redwood counties. It's a joint board. But we do this all over southern Minnesota. We came up with this PowerPoint presentation to let people like you know what we're doing, how we do it, why we do it, and learn anything from you that might be unique about your system, whether you're tiled in, tiled out. So this is the second of 3 meetings, and the third meeting, the public hearing, that hasn't been determined yet when that will be, but you will get a letter when that public hearing is down the road. So obviously tiling's done a tad different now than it was 100 years ago. 100 years ago, they never would have dreamed of putting in tile like that or open ditches. These are the viewers that work together. We've got an office in Freeborn County at my farm. We're members of the Minnesota Viewers Association. There's 4 or 5 trainings throughout the year that you can go to become accredited. There's 3 or 4 different groups throughout the state that do this viewing. We obviously have to follow ditch law, so whether it's our group doing the viewing or another group somewhere else, they still follow the same scenario on how they come up with numbers. But this is our background, how long we've been doing the viewing. These are the different counties that we're actively working in. We're very busy. I won't read this to you. You can read it, but this was handed out at the back end. But it talks about the viewing process, how we do our work, how we go about it. Occasionally, on a really complicated system, we'll go out with 4-wheelers and run the whole system on the four-wheeler, but we do a lot of the work out on site or in the office on the computer looking at maps from the engineer from the county. So we do a lot of work out on site, a lot of work in the office. A little more about the viewing process and how we go about our work. So we do this all the time. We get used to the terminology. This is what we'll talk about here shortly. But we'll talk about county open ditch on this made-up system. That's a solid red line here. We'll talk about county tile. That's dotted red lines. We'll talk about the ditch watershed. That's anything that's within the yellow. The ditch watershed, that was drawn by an engineer. They use what's called LIDAR. It's very, very accurate as far as what water is going to the county system, what water is going somewhere else. So if you're on the watershed border of this JD 15, look at that border, make sure it makes sense to you as far as where the engineer drew the watershed line. If it doesn't make sense to you, let us know. We'll come out and look at it. We'll have the engineer re-look at it, but you guys know this system better than anybody, so if you're on the border, check it out. We look at benefits. How does your property benefit by being able to get rid of the water? There's 5 things that we use to determine benefits. Obviously, how many acres you've got within the watershed, what type of soil you have, your location rate, where your property is physically away from the county open ditch or county tile, whether or not you've got county tile on your property, and then the efficiency of the system. Those 5 things come together to determine the benefits. With that benefit number, what we're after is a % of total benefits. So when there's repair or maintenance done on that system, obviously the whole bill has to be paid, whether it's a $1,000 bill or a $50,000 bill. It all has to be paid. Each parcel pays a percentage of that bill. That's what we're coming up here with this redetermination of benefits. Also on a county system, the county manages the finances. They run the checkbook and they oversee the repairs. And we'll talk about damages too. There's also another part of it that comes in. There's a law from 1977 that talks about a grass strip along the shoulder of the open ditch, but we'll talk about that. So a little information on this system on JD 14 here in the middle. This is unique. We haven't seen it in any other counties we work in, but we've got JD 15 that runs into JD 14 that runs into JD 15. And then that eventually gets to JD 31, I think it is. But in the blue area there's 3,150 acres within the system. It hasn't been redetermined since it was established in 1917. There's county open ditch and county tile. There's about 2.9 miles of county open ditch, 29,000 feet of county tile. And we'll talk about the rest of that here in a bit. JD 15 in the yellow, that's got 10,300 acres. So like I said, on a county system, I don't know if you can see that very good, but if there's a bank slide on the open ditch, all the parcels within the system help pay to repair that bank slide. If there's a small washout on a county tile, all the parcels within the system help pay for that repair, whether it's, like I said, a $1,000 repair or a $50,000 repair. So these are the 5 things we use to determine benefits. We'll go through each of them. By ditch law, we have to look at it in 40-acre parcels or less. So on the spreadsheets that you've got, if you own a 160, you're going to have at least 4 lines on that spreadsheet. If you've got a half-acre building site, you're going to have a line on the spreadsheet. When we break it into 40-acre parcels or less, this is made up. The pink line is a watershed border. Anything in the yellow is within this made-up system. That whole 40 is within the watershed of this system. There must be a blacktop road on the south side there. We take an acre and a half off for the benefits for the road. The benefits there would go to the road authority, whether it's state, county, or township. So in that example, we've got 38 and a half remaining that are benefited to that parcel. On this one here, you look at that. It's on the watershed border. There's 8 acres that are outside of the system. We don't care about those 8 acres if it goes to a river or a private system. If it goes to another county system, we match up the acres with the adjoining county system if it's been recently redetermined. So there we've got 32. Again, take off that acre and a half for the road. That goes to the road authority. So in that example, we've got 30 and a half remaining that are benefited to that parcel. Also, if you've got county open ditch on your parcel, we subtract the actual acres of the open ditch from your deeded acres to get to your benefited acres. On these systems, these are the other systems that are around 15 and 14. None of these other ones have recently been redetermined. So we matched up acres with anything between 15 and 14. We matched up those acres to make sure you aren't overassessed or underassessed. Excuse me. We also look at if you're tiled out. Here's the watershed here, open ditch. Here's the watershed border. Say you own that 40, it's a fairly flat 40. It worked best for you to pattern tile that whole works out of the system. You let us know that you're tiled out of the system, hopefully bring us some tile maps. If you're tiled out, we'll reduce your benefits on that by 50%. The rationale is your subsurface water is going over here somewhere else. Your surface water still may go into the system, and we adjust that number up or down depending on your situation. You may have a basin here and the water just sits there until it can get into the intake and go out of the system. You let us know if you've got a situation like that. We may say 80% of your water goes out of the system, 20% in. So we adjust our numbers up or down according to information that you give us. Works the same way if you're tiled into the system. You pattern tile that whole works into the county system. We would bring those acres in, but again at a 50% rate. Subsurface is coming in. Surface water is going somewhere else. Here's an example. This happened to be Faribault County. Here's the watershed border, that green line. We got JD 13 on the south, 44 on the north. Worked best for this guy to pattern tile that whole works down to JD 13. He let us know that he's tiled into 13. We brought those acres into 13. At a 50% rate, subsurface water is coming to 13, but we also left him in County Ditch 44 because in theory, this surface water, subsurface is coming down to 13, surface water would go up to 44. So let us know if you're tiled in or tiled out. Drainage law has some teeth in it. If you're tiled into a system, we've heard about it, we haven't seen instances of it, but if you're tiled into a county system and absolutely refuse to help pay for repair or maintenance on that system, technically the county has the authority to cut your tile if you're tiled in and refuse to help pay on that system. And it's only fair. If you're using a county system, you help pay the repair and maintenance of it. One thing, after the redetermination is complete, you cannot tile from outside the system into the county system without first petitioning into the system. Now is kind of your chance to say, hey, I tile this piece up into the county system, we'll bring those acres in. But once this redetermination is complete, you can still tile into the system, but it's a whole process and a legal process to tile into it. So if after it's done, you cannot tile into it, but on the same vein, anyone within that blue area has the right to use that county system on their benefited acres in that system. Somebody else may own the land between your parcel and the county system. Obviously, you have to get permission from them to cross their land or make a deal with them. They can't charge you $100,000 to cross their land, but hopefully you get along with your neighbor, you can make a deal with them to tile to the county system. We also look at your location rate, where your property is physically away from the county open ditch or county tile. We feed all the numbers into the computer. We build a book like this on every single system that we work on. It's got all your parcels, your acres, your soil types. So when we're done here, if you want to look at exactly what we did on your parcel, we're happy to show you how we broke out your parcel. But we feed the numbers into the computer. If your 40's right on the open ditch, we leave your numbers at 100%. If you're a 40 removed from the open ditch, we reduce your benefits 10% each 40 you are away from the county open ditch or county tile. The reasoning is that system isn't as much of a benefit to you because it costs you money to get your water tiled over to that county system. So it's a 10% reduction each 40 away. You look at that 40, you go, why is that 70% instead of 80? Well, there's a road between that parcel and the county system. That system isn't as much of a benefit to you because you got to cross that road to get to the county system. We reduce it another 10% if there's a road between your parcel and the system. I'm going to lose my voice before the day is over. My wife wonders why I don't like to talk when I get home, but we do the same thing on county tile. This red line in this made-up system is county tile. We will reduce it 10% each 40 away, but on county tile we start at 90% instead of 100% because the drainage coefficient on a county tile is going to be less than the drainage coefficient on an open ditch. So we start our numbers at 90% and reduce the further away. The efficiency of the system is also taken into account when we determine benefits. We look at soil types. These are the 4 main soil types that we look at. By ditch law, we have to look at it. What would that soil type be like if the county system wasn't there? A soil, that gets the most benefit without the county system. That would be standing water or cattails. So that's got our highest benefit multiplier. B soil, years ago you might have got slough hay or a pasture ground on B soil. C soil is your top-notch ground, but again, you got to get the water out of it. D soil, your upland ground, 6% slope or more. When the benefits were determined for this back in 1917, they probably only had benefits for A and B soil. They didn't have benefits for C and D. A lot of the systems we work on that haven't been looked at for 100 years, only 30% of the acres have been paying the bills for the last 100 years. Now when the redetermination is done, most every acre within that system will help pay the repair and maintenance, but at different rates. That gets the most benefit, the A soil, so that's got the highest multiplier. This has the smallest multiplier. There's an example, all 4 soil types on one slide. A soil before drainage, standing water or cattails, you get the water out of it, you can get a decent crop. B soil, C, D soils, your upland ground, 6% slope or more. You aren't going to pattern tile that, but you might run a tile across the side hill to get the water out of the side hill or up through the draw. There's an example of tiling up on D ground. 50 years ago, you'd have never seen them tiling up on that upland ground, but nowadays, if they can tile wherever you want if you're willing to pay the bill. We also look at other categories that you might have. If you're in a permanent wetland RIM or WRP or CREP, let us know. We'll reduce your benefits way down if you're in a permanent program. They don't go to zero, but they would be dropped by 90%. But again, you have to let us know if you're in a permanent program. If it's in CRP, we do not adjust any numbers for CRP. That's a short-term contract, 10 or 15 years, plus you can buy out of it. If you've got a farmable wetland, say you got 5 acres, it's designated farmable wetland. We can't see that when we're out there looking at the property. If you've got that, let us know. Hopefully bring us some documentation that you got 5 acres of farmable wetland. You're restricted on what tiling you can do. We'll reduce your benefits on those 5 acres if you've got some of that. And we'll talk about all the rest of these too. There's an example of farmable wetland. If you got a pothole on the back 40, you've never farmed it, your dad never farmed it, your grandpa never farmed it. Odds are we've seen it when we've been out there looking at the property or when we're looking at maps or Google Earth. But check on us. Make sure, say you got a 3-acre pothole, check on us, make sure we've got that listed in our book. That would have a 0 benefit value tied to it. We have to account for all the acres within that system, but some of them have a 0 benefit value tied to it. Non-benefited acres, never been farmed, never will. Roads benefit. We were going to a meeting a couple years ago in Blue Earth. They were working on I-90. They were plowing in an 8-inch tile right parallel to the road that got the road out of the road bed. That went right to a county system. So roads benefit and help pay the repair and maintenance on the system. Building sites benefit. We always say an inch of water in your basement's a whole lot bigger deal than an inch of water out in the back 40. At my farm, I live up on top of a hill, but I've got tile all the way around my house that lead to private tile, that lead to the county tile. Around my bin site, I've got 4 or 5 different surface intakes that lead to private tile, that lead to the county tile. So actually at my farm, I pay into 2 systems because the water goes 2 ways from my building site. We also look at whether or not you've got county tile on your property. Generally, it's a benefit to have county tile on your property. Red lines are county tile in this example. That 40 doesn't have any county tile in it. There wouldn't be any county tile benefit. This 40 here has 1,400 feet of county tile in it. We add 50 cents per foot to your benefit value if you've got county tile on your property. You may not get much draw from that county tile, but it's easy to get your private tile hooked into it. So normally it's a benefit. Unless you've got a situation like this, you've got 3 or 4 county tile coming together on your property. It might not be a benefit, it could be a detriment, it's overloaded. You let us know that you've got a situation like that, that on a big rain, the water might be pouring out of an intake and you drowned out 3-4 acres every couple of years because of that doggone county tile. Let us know. We can look at a lot of different maps, measure how many acres you drowned out over the county tile, and we'll subtract the county tile benefit, and if you're drowning out, we'll reduce your benefits because that county tile is a detriment to you. But again, you have to let us know if you've got a situation like that. We aren't going to change anything on private tile. It's your business what you do on the private. but on the county, we can adjust accordingly. On these systems, there's 193,000 feet of county tile in 15, 29,000 feet in 14. Works the same way on county open ditch. If the ditch is flat through you and you drowned out along the open ditch, I know we've adjusted some numbers on JD 14 because that ditch is flat through there. If you're drowning out because the ditch is flat through you, let us know and we can adjust the numbers and look at different maps. And this guy's drowning out 3 acres every other year. We'll reduce your benefits. But again, you have to let us know if you've got a situation like that. So this is how we would break down. Like I said, we break it into 40-acre parcels or less. So here's a 40-acre parcel. Must be a gravel road on the south side there. We take an acre off for the gravel road. The benefits for that road would go to the road authority, whether it's township or county. 39 remaining. We take and measure the trees on the building site, 1.6 acres of trees. We have a 0 multiplier for trees. We figure they do the system some good, sucking up water, of course, unless they're on top of a tile or something. 1.1 acres of building site. We've got a multiplier for building sites. That's accelerated runoff. That would be a higher benefit number on building sites. Then we go on what's called web soil survey. Look at how many acres of A, B, C, and D you've got on the remainder of your property. 2.2 of A, B, and C. A soil has the highest multiplier. That would be that standing water cattails without the ditch system. D soils, your upland ground, 6% slope or more. That's got the smallest multiplier. We end up with 54,000 of benefits. Multiply it by our location rate. This example must be 240s away from the county open ditch or 140 away from a county tile because it's got an 80% multiplier. We net out at 43,000 worth of benefits. You don't owe that number, but by ditch law, we have to look at it. How does your parcel benefit from that ditch system over a 25-year period? That's why the numbers get so high. Everybody in the room got a high benefit number that you go, holy moly, this is ridiculous, but that's how we do it by ditch law. How does your property benefit over a 25-year period? Works the same way. If these are the same numbers as the other slide. We use 90% multiplier because it's on a county tile. We got 1,400 feet. We add that $700 of benefits because there's county tile there, 50 cents per foot. We net out at 49,000 in that example. We don't make any numbers up. We get use 3-year average corn yield, 3-year average bean yield. We look at the county CER rating, township CER rating. We use a 3-year average sale price for the corn and beans, and the input costs we get from the University of Minnesota, plus a couple of the guys that work in our office are active farmers, so they double check these numbers. So we don't make anything up, and we're happy to show you, but this is how we get our benefit numbers. One other thing that enters in on a redetermination of benefits, it kicks in a law from 1977 that says when a redetermination of benefits is done, which is what's happening right now on 14, there has to be a 1-rod grass strip acquired along the shoulder of the open ditch. And it's confusing because it's the same 1-rod grass strip that Dayton came up with a couple years ago in his Clean Water Act. On Dayton's law, he said, you will put in a 1-rod grass strip and we aren't going to pay you anything. But this law from 1977 says that the 1-rod grass strip easement will go in, but you get paid basically going land rate for that easement. And the easement is paid at either 100% if it was cropland before Dayton's law. If it's through pasture, it's paid at 50%. Pasture normally would be marginal ground. If it's through a permanent easement like CREP or RIM, it's paid at 25% of land value. That's a county policy that's here in Redwood. Or if it's through a building site or trees or non-benefited acres, the easement still has to be established, but it's paid at 10% of land value. So all that is listed on those spreadsheets that you got as far as if you're along the open ditch, your easement costs. And it's strictly an easement. You own it, you can sell it next week or next year if you want. It's an easement. So these are just some examples. This would have been before Dayton's law went in. That would have been paid at 100%. This would be paid at 100%. This is outside the road right away, but it's non-cropped. It would be paid at 10%. That's in the road right away. There would be no easement there. This would be paid at 100%. This happens to be a county ditch. This is non-farmed land, non-benefited land. It'd be paid at 10%. This example, this side would be paid at 100%. This would be paid at 50% because it's pasture. The fence would have to be moved back 16.5 feet. The county can't get in there to do any work or do any inspections if you've got a fence right on the shoulder of the ditch. This would be paid at 100%. This would be paid at 10% through the building site. Obviously, they aren't going to do any work in your building site. They do it from the other side, but by law, the easement still has to be established. If you've got the land in a CRP filter strip program now, you've got 33 feet of filter strip now, you will get that one rod grass strip payment on top of that 33-foot strip. You continue to get your CRP payments for the life of your contract. Once a contract is up, and each county is different, so I don't have an answer for you. But once that contract is up, talk to the soil and water. If you want to keep it in a CRP filter strip, they may ask you to move it out 16.5 more feet here, or they might say, you got 33 feet, but we're only going to pay you for 16.5. So if you're in CRP, once your contract is up, talk to them at Soil and Water, but you continue to get your CRP payment. This gets paid on top of it. That grass strip payment, the money for that is generated by everyone within the watershed. They all help pay for the one rod grass strip. Even the guys that are along the open ditch, they have to help pay for the one rod grass strip. Like I said, the fence would have to be moved back. This happens to be Waseca County. We did a redetermination on this ditch. The guy moved his fence back. I went back a year later, he had moved it back. He wasn't happy, but he moved the fence back, but he got paid for the one rod grass strip. You're allowed to bale it. If it's in CRP, obviously you have to follow any rules there. The public is not allowed to hunt out there without your permission. Like I said, you own it. You can sell it next week if you want. But the public is not allowed to be out there without your okay. The only people that can be out there is the county or contractors, that sort of thing, the ditch inspector, the engineer, if they're doing work, can be out there. Technically, during a redetermination, the viewers can be out there, but we're done with our work, we aren't going to be out there. But the law is very black and white on who can be on that easement. Those guys can't be out there. You're allowed to drive on it, you turn around on it, park your trucks on it, but you can't make a road out of it. If the county came out and saw you had made a road right along the shoulder of the ditch, you'd probably get a letter saying you need to reestablish that one-rod grass strip. So this is what it boils down to, everything I've been yakking about here. So your info that was sent to you, you're going to have your line items and your name and address here. It's going to talk about your deeded acres, then your benefited acres. That's how many acres are benefited in the system. There's 3,100 on this JD 14. Then it's going to be your amount benefited, that big scary number that everybody got. There's $4.6 million worth of benefits on this JD 14, again, over a 25-year period. That number there, that percentage, that's what we're after. All the numbers are important, but that percentage is what we're after. If there's repair or maintenance on that system, like we talked, the whole bill has to be paid. Each parcel pays a percentage of the bill. The way we get that, we take your amount benefited divided by the total benefits, gets to be your percent of total benefits. Obviously, these are all going to add up to 100%. On the grass strip, if you're along the shoulder of the open ditch, you're going to have numbers in these columns. There's 10.7 acres of grass strip that has to be acquired that would have been cropland acres. We looked at land sales within Redwood County and Lyon County. We used $7,500 an acre for the grass strip payments. We've heard of some land sales that are going through the roof, but $7,500 is what we used. So the 10 acres times the 7,500, we got 80,000 worth of grass strip payments for the one-rod grass strip. We've got easements. There's some 10% easement paid at 750, 0.21 acres, a few bucks there. So there's 81,000 worth of easement that has to be acquired on this redetermination of benefits. By ditch law, we have to give an estimated assessment for the redetermination of benefits. So that far right-hand column is your estimated assessment for this redetermination. We used 86,000 as an estimated assessment for our spreadsheets, and that's an estimate. It covers that 81,000, plus there's some viewer cost in there. There might be some engineer costs, some admin, but we have to throw a number at it. We used 86,000. We don't know how much money they've got in that account for JD 14, if they're 10 or 20,000 in the red, or if they're in the black, and they will assess according to what they need or what they've got in their account. But this redetermination of benefits, we used 86,000, so that far right-hand number on your spreadsheet would be 86,000 times your percent of benefits equals your estimated assessment for this redetermination. Those percentages are confusing. An easy way to look at it, on this example here, if there was a $10,000 repair on this system, you move that decimal point 2 places to the right, that parcel would owe $72.09 of a $10,000 repair. It's just an easy way to look at it to get your head wrapped around it. Any money that's paid into an account stays in that account. It can't be used anywhere else in the county. Once in a while, when one county system flows into another county system, they have what's called outlet benefits. The downstream system has to be cleaned more and more water coming through it. So we determine an outlet benefit. On this system, we've got 14 runs into county ditch. I got to think. this was a complicated system because you've got 15 running into 14, running into 15, and we talked about it and discussed it. Technically, there would be an outlet benefit from 15 into 14, and you would have an outlet benefit from 14 into 15, and discussing it with the county, we're just pretending 15 isn't there. 14 is on its own. There's no outlet benefit from 14 into 50. But 15 eventually dumps into 31. So JD 14 and 15, eventually, whenever JD 31 is redetermined, 31 has to be bigger and cleaned more often because this water coming into there. At that time down the road, there would be an outlet benefit for 14 into 31, but that's down the road. We've got 15 into 14, into 15, into 31 over here. So it's an interesting system. I'll just go through these quick. You know what the system looks like. These are just pictures when we were out there looking at the county system. Somebody asked me why I've always got John Deere pictures in the ditch. We always ran international red equipment, so maybe it's subconscious that it's all John Deere's in the ditch. We're from Freeborn County. This is how they police that one-rod grass strip. Put a 16.5-foot piece of conduit on the front of the four-wheeler, run along the shoulder of the ditch. If it's hitting 2-3 rows of corn, you'll get a letter from the county saying you need to destroy 3 rows of corn. If you don't do it, the county will do it for you and charge you. So they do and will police it. So like I'd said, this is the second of 3 meetings. That third meeting, or the final only meeting that has to be held, that hasn't been decided when that will be yet. But you will get a letter for that meeting, and that's a formal meeting. I don't know where they'll have it or when, but you'll get a letter. But what they do, they open the public hearing, and it's an official meeting. They've got 3 options. They open the public hearing, listen to anything you've got to say, whether you're for this, against it. If you can say those viewers are messed up, they don't know what they're talking about, you can say anything you want. Then they'll close the public hearing. Then they got 3 options. They can approve it, table it, or dismiss it. Generally, they approve it because we've worked hard to iron out all the wrinkles before it gets to that point. If they approve it, and you're still not happy with how things played out, there's an official 30-day appeal period after that. The first thing you do in an appeal period is hire a lawyer to start fighting whatever your concern is. If they get through the appeal period and there's no appeals, then those numbers, those benefit numbers and percentages that we put to your parcel, stick to that parcel for the next 30, 40, 50 years. This hasn't been opened up in 100 years, so they don't open it up just for the heck of it. So it's very important that we get those numbers correct on your parcels, and make sure you let us know if you've got anything we need to look at special on your parcel. One thing we ask, we can't change any numbers at that public hearing. By the time we get there, we've got all the official numbers. If you're tiled in, tiled out, let us know well in advance, and we can adjust numbers accordingly. I think we can adjust numbers accordingly, but we cannot do it at the public hearing. And all our phone numbers, our email, our mailing address is on what was sent to you. So let us know. Now, there's our info, plus you've got it there. But any questions? Certainly got to be questions, or Bob or John? Sure.
When and who petitioned for redetermination?
There wasn't an official petition, but the Drainage Authority, the commissioners from Lyon and Redwood decided there should be a redetermination on 14.
The commissioners decided that.
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yep. And that's not uncommon. All the counties we work in, we do a lot of work in Brown and Nicollet, and they're methodically going through their ditches, getting them looked at, redetermined, because most of them haven't been looked at since they were established. So it's the decision was made by them.
Do you know how many more acres you brought into the system that weren't paying benefits before? Was there any additional acres or not?
I don't know on this one the acres previous to now. And to be honest, we don't look at what was there previously because it doesn't come into play on the work that we do. The watershed line is drawn by the commissioners decide they're doing a redetermination on JD 14. That info goes to the engineer. The engineer draws the watershed line for JD 14. They give us the map, and then we start our work. But to answer your question, we don't look at old numbers because they don't come into play with the work that we do.
Now, I have 3.97 acres, just a building site off of 28. And I cannot understand, I got farmland all around me. How come I got assessed? What benefit is this, my three gonna do to this title?
Because you're part of the whole, you get drawn in it. Your benefits are going to be low and your assessment's going to be low, but because you're part of the whole, your 3 acres will help pay a small amount of that 86,000. I'm guessing there's some trees there, but we can look at exactly how we broke out your 3 acres.
Well, even if trees, I think that would be a benefit because trees will draw water.
Right, so we have they would not have been assessed into it. After, we can look at your numbers after the meeting. Like I said, and like on my building site, I've got tile around my house. I don't know if you've got tile or not. It doesn't matter. It's because you're part of the whole. If you wanted to put a tile around your house and run it over to the county system, you've got the right to do that. But we don't look at whether a person is. One other thing, say you own a 40-acre piece and you own a 40-acre piece, we don't look at private tile. Say this guy, he's got his pattern tile from one end to the other. This guy doesn't believe in tile, doesn't have a lick of tile in there. If they're the exact same location and soil types, their benefit numbers would be exactly the same. We don't adjust up or down. If this guy's got tile and this guy has none, because you're within the system, it's a management decision if you want to tile into there or not. But
Down the road, since 1917 and here it's 22. Okay, what if there has to be some more construction done down the road? Will be assessed again, the same amount, I imagine?
you will be assessed, yes, according to whatever that bill is. If it's a $10,000 bill or a $100,000 bill, you can look at that percentage, and we can talk about it afterward. But and we'll double check to make sure you're comfortable with what we did on your building site. But whether a person likes it or not, you get drawn in, and I.
Is this a one-time assessment, a yearly assessment? It goes on your taxes, or is it a separate fund? Are you billed if there's just a problem, or how is this
this redetermination of benefits, that 86,000 that we talked about, and how does Redwood do it as far as billing? This is Scott Wold.
After the board at the public hearing, if the redetermination of benefits is accepted, there will be a direct billing that will go out, so unlike normal maintenance, it shows up as a special assessment of the annual taxes, property taxes. This redetermination, you'll get a bill in the mail, whatever it is. Normally, this is up to the drainage authority. They give you the option of paying that in full within 60 days, or if you choose not to do that, you can have it go on your property taxes. And it's been from anywhere from, normally I think it's about 4 years is what we've done. 3 or 4? 3, I think. 3, okay. And then that would be going to property taxes for 3 years, and then normally traditionally it's been at 4% interest. So you could have that, get divided out, be assessed on your property taxes, or pay it back within 60 days.
Down the road, if they do a $10,000 repair, is that direct billed or does that just go on the taxes?
So in the future, so this is the only time you'll get, I shouldn't say the only time, but associated with this redetermination of benefits, you'll get a one-time bill. After that, if there's no other proceedings that are petitioned for with other public meetings, for normal maintenance that we do throughout the year and our normal levy to do those repairs, that'll show up on your property taxes. We do a hearing in, I believe it's October or early November is when we advertise in the paper, it goes on the website, the proposed levies for the following year. And then the board acts on that at the early November meeting to adopt those levies. Traditionally, what we do in Redwood County is, so the J14 bank account, we keep that as low as possible so that the money stays in your pocket. So if you sell your farm, we didn't levy you for 5 years of money that's staying with the ditch that you don't get back. So we keep that balance low. If we know we're gonna have a sizable repair coming up that we can plan for, which is not always possible, we might try to levy for 2-3 years to build that bank account up in order to pay for that, whatever that thing is. Sometimes though, we run into situations where there's a big repair that just pops up in the middle of summer, so at a rain event, field's flooding, the guys get out there, they complete that, they fix it. Well, now that bank account went in the red. So that's the other thing we look at, because we keep that account low, now that account's running negative. When we get to the end of the year, that's a ditch we're gonna look at, figure out how much of a levy do we need to put on this to pay back for the repairs that were done earlier this year.
If this goes through and you bill, when would be the estimated time for this building?
So the meeting is today. Let's just throw out, for an example, because we haven't set the date yet, that we'll hold the public hearing maybe in April, okay? Maybe the end of March. So, and that'll be advertised. Like Mark said, you get a mailing about that. Normally then, so when the board adopts that report, so we're at a public hearing and say, yep, we accept the redetermination of benefits. As Mark said, there's a 1-month appeal period, okay? So we don't do anything for 1 month just in case somebody files an appeal. That's your right. We don't want to get caught where we've sent bills out and now it's being appealed. So we wait a month, and then at the end of that month, the auditor will then send that bill out. And then normally there's that 60 days to pay it or put it on your taxes.
So you're saying fairly soon. I mean, my amount is so small that, but, I mean, we moved here from, we had land up in Crow Wing County and when they tarred a road, it was a 10-year assessment at no interest. So I don't know why you would charge interest to not get over, because I would think some assessments are going to be quite substantial.
Every county and every funding source that funds different things has
Oh,
different
I
parameters
totally
associated.
understand that, that's
Yep.
why I'm so shocked that you are charging interest and having that on such a short term. When this is a long-range benefit, it's not something that needs.
That's on something, that's the board decides on a case-by-case position. The drainage authority decides on a
Okay,
case-by-case basis.
Okay.
You know, some ditches, when we do these, the amount's so small that we don't actually do a direct bill because the account doesn't have money to pay for it. So, I mean, it's situationally dependent on what it is.
Interesting. I have another question too. Something that you said about private tile is your own business, which strikes me as odd that you don't have to go through a bunch of permitting. And how does this affect your neighbors' groundwater and watersheds if you can just tile whenever you want, wherever you want? Is that true?
In Redwood County,
Redwood County, we do not have any permitting system in place there. I'm not aware of a county, I could be incorrect, I'm not aware of a county that permits private tiling. I
Which,
no permit
which
process.
I'm getting the gist of that, because all I've heard is farmland, and we're former farmers, so, and have a son down here that farms lots and lots of acres. So I totally understand that, but we moved here from a watershed district that you did not remove a cattail without permits, and you were not allowed to do it, you gotta put that cattail back. So I'm wondering about, so nobody cares about water quality, watersheds, groundwater, wells, private wells?
I think everybody cares enormously about groundwater and wells, but everybody in here, I don't know any of them, but they aren't putting more chemical on that ground than they have to, or more fertilizer than they have to, because it's too expensive to waste. So they're all good they're good stewards and going to do their very best. So,
If you're a farmer.
yeah.
And this hearing is about the benefit roles associated with J14. If you would like to discuss a permitting process or something that you would like to propose, there is an open forum at the county board meetings. You can always show up and address that county board at any time. But today, this is, it's a procedural, this is helping the counties figure out, what are the bank rolls on these systems, and if we do repairs, who has to pay for that, and make sure that it's fair and equitable for everybody out there.
All right, well, thank you for coming out, and we'll stay around as long as you want and show you exactly what we did in the book.
Question, you said that if you're tiled out of the system, you would be reduced by 50%?
That's our starting point, yep.
If you're tiled into 15, are you gaining anything by telling you that you're tiled out?
From 14 into 15,
Yeah.
that's up to you to, if you're tiled into 15, we'll reduce your benefits on 14, but then you will have benefits in 15 at 50%, and then you get,
The advantage to doing it.
I,
It would be cleaner, because you wouldn't have a neighbor say, hey, you're not paying.
if you're tiled into, yeah, it's,
We've had that happen. Where a guy didn't come forward and the neighbor squealed on him, and he had to go through a little redetermination. You guys are sold, majority of the land, that was just a different case situation.
all right, well, thanks for coming out.